Israel says it is moving toward the next stage of its offensive against Gaza. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu rallies troops on the border, saying more is coming in the campaign against Hamas. The military says it is preparing to attack Gaza by land, sea, and air to destroy the group a week after it carried out a terror attack in Israel and took more than 100 people hostage. Israeli airstrikes pounded targets in Gaza overnight ahead of the anticipated ground assault. The World Health Organization says an Israeli order forcing people to evacuate from hospitals in northern Gaza is a death sentence. Israeli officials say there are two safe routes for families to relocate south of the Wadi Gaza wetlands that run across the territory. Many displaced Gazans have taken refuge at United Nations schools in southern Gaza. Food, water, and medical supplies are running low. Israel's military says it has been attacking targets it believes are linked to Hamas. But Hamas says more than 70 civilians were killed in an airstrike on one of the highways. Our correspondent, Tanya Kramer, is in Ashdod, southern Israel, near the Gaza border. She told us more about the situation on the ground.
We're right here now in southern Israel. It's quiet this morning, but it's also a tense morning because, of course, everybody here also is waiting what's happening next. A lot of the towns and villages and kibbutzim around the Gaza border area have been evacuated as well. A lot of people are here also on the move, staying with relatives further up north. Last night there have been several rocket barrages into Israel, also to Ashdod and also to Tel Aviv. But as you said as well, the airstrikes and the bombardments of Gaza are also continuing at this time.
Are indications any clearer today that Israel may soon launch its ground offensive on Gaza?
I mean, this is what everybody is, of course, waiting for. The timing is unclear. There will be an element of surprise still, although everybody's expecting it. It seems to be rather imminent, but we don't know. The army said that they plan to implement a wide range of operational offensive plans and a wider ground operation. They said that in a statement. It is certainly also made more difficult by the fact that there are over 100 hostages being held in Gaza. So it is not, just going in for a ground operation. But it's not just the south that Israelis are looking at. They're also looking up north, because in recent days there have been a lot of exchanges of fire, also with Hezbollah, again yesterday, and also now with Syria. And we understand that the U.S. is sending another carrier that's quite unusual to the eastern Mediterranean to support Israel. Again, also to show and to probably in a message to other actors here in the region not to take part in this war.
Deterrence. Tanya, almost half the Gazan population, as you well know, residents in the north, has been told to relocate in what we all keep reminding viewers is one of the world's most congested places. Now we hear many can't flee south into Egypt because the Rafah crossing there is closed. One of the reasons why the UN and aid groups say a humanitarian crisis is looming there. Any relief coming for those Palestinians?
Well, we understand that there are trucks on the Egyptian side. For the moment, they are not passing, but the whole situation in Gaza is deteriorating by the hour. I had the chance to talk to one of our colleagues there, another fellow journalist in Gaza, who's also himself on the move. He is from Gaza City and moved down to the southern part, and he was telling me how difficult it is. You know, he still had some fuel in his car, but there's not much gasoline left at the gas stations. They refer from one to the next. For people who have a car, those who don't have transport, they go by foot, others go on donkey carts. The water situation is a problem. There's no electricity. So there are all kinds of problems, and we heard from WHO also warning that they cannot, it's impossible to evacuate evacuate those hospitals because to move those patients, it's really problematic. So we also understand that there are efforts to try to get out some Palestinians who have a dual citizenship or foreigners with a foreign passport. But as of last night, they were still stranded in the Rafah crossing, as well as the aid that's supposed to come in. But you also have to understand, you also have to be able then, once the aid comes in, that it can be distributed. And with this very weak infrastructure at the moment that there is with all these problems, this will be very, very difficult.
To say it's a dynamic situation would be a gross understatement. That is Tanya Kramer in Ashdod. Many, many thanks. Margaret Harris from the World Health Organization described what's being done to help civilians in Gaza.
So we're doing everything we can, including condemning the evacuation orders for the 22 hospitals in the north of Gaza, the northern part of Gaza, that have been given repeated orders by the Israelis to remove. They cannot. They're treating more than 2,000 inpatients. Many of them are severely ill. Their lives are hanging in the balance as it is, and they certainly can't be moved. And even if they could, there's no capacity in the southern hospitals. They're already completely overstretched. We are also verifying and condemning attacks on health. We're seeing that we've verified at least 41 attacks on health that have led to the loss of life of 11 healthcare workers on duty. We've learned of another 4 who lost their lives just in the last 24 hours. We are verifying those, and we know of 16 injuries. But the critical thing, and the thing we can't do, is get the supplies in. All the medicines are running out. There's desperate need for pain relief, for instance, with all these people with injuries. Just imagine trying to treat a child with burns who's crying in pain and you can't do anything for them. We have the supplies ready. They're waiting 20 kilometers away, but we need the borders open. We need to be able to deliver them. So on the Egyptian side, we are told it can be open, but it is apparently not yet safe to open on the other side, that it is still an unsafe crossing. But we have certainly our Director General, Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, had a meeting with the Egyptian president some days ago, and there was agreement that they would open the border for our supplies to go in, but it has not been possible to bring them in.
In other developments, Gazan officials say Israel's airstrikes have killed more than 2,300 people. Hamas's terror attacks claimed more than 1,300 Israelis. The U.S. has sent a second aircraft carrier to the eastern Mediterranean to support Israel and prevent any regional conflict. Israel's communications minister wants Al Jazeera's local bureau shut down, having accused the Qatar-based news channel of incitement. Let's bring in DW's senior international correspondent, Funny Fachar, who's in Jerusalem. Funny, it's now been a week since Hamas's terrorist attacks. What's the climate in Jerusalem right now?
If you've never been to Jerusalem, you may get the impression that there is a sense of normalcy because there are more people out on the street. But that's nothing compared to what life looked like here more than a week ago, before this terrorist attack was unleashed by Hamas militants on Saturday, killing hundreds of people and abducting at least an estimated 150 people. Still unclear, as we have just heard in the report, what exactly is happening to them. When it comes to the atmosphere all around and even just the impact on Israeli society, that's really early to tell. One has to understand that prior to all of this, this society has been much polarized when it comes to the domestic government here. That's not going to disappear overnight. What I do see, however, that people talk less and less actually about domestic politics, and rather they are united both in their grief, in their anger as well, how it could come to this situation that so many people in Israel have been killed, but also increasingly questions are being also raised with regard to Israel's moral responsibility when it comes to people in Palestine, in Gaza Strip, and when it comes to the Palestinian people. People are asking themselves here, why is it that the entire Gaza region has to pay the price for the actions of the Hamas militants, so basically for the actions of a few. And as we have seen there by my colleague Sander filing the report from Tel Aviv, people are asking for the release of their family members. They are asking for the government to pay attention, making sure that they're not becoming, to say so, a collateral damage as Israel is amassing the forces there alongside the Gaza border, ready to go in, ready to strike, and unclear what that's going to mean for ordinary citizens, but as well as the hostages that are inside in Gaza Strip.
Funny, very quickly, we have less than half a minute. While the U.S. Secretary of State is on a lightning tour through the Middle East in hopes of limiting the conflict, Washington has dispatched a second aircraft carrier to the eastern Mediterranean. What's the message the U.S. is trying to send here?
Briefly, deterrence, making sure that, for example, Iran or Iran-backed Hezbollah, the militant group in Lebanon, does not get involved, that Syria does not get involved in this conflict, making sure that there's de-escalation before this conflict is widening. And even though we're hearing that Secretary of State Blinken has met Crown Prince Abdullah in Saudi Arabia, it is completely unclear whether he can achieve this de-escalation.
DW's Funny Fashar.